Thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is David Van Hucklam, and I'm going to talk about Krow Professional Services Automation today and spend the majority of the time showing a live demonstration of the features and capabilities within Krow PSA. So let's go ahead and get started. So Krow PSA is the easiest way to manage professional services with one unified platform. Starting on the left of the slide in front of you, from managing your customers and accounts, services CPQ including proposals and statement of works, project and task management, resource planning, staffing, time and expense management, project accounting, billing and invoicing, through to revenue recognition, customer and partner communities, and analytics, all built 100% native on the Salesforce platform. You don't need to be a Salesforce customer to use Krow, but we'll talk about some of the benefits if you do use Salesforce CRM to manage sales and how that works hand in hand with Krow on the services side. So you have complete visibility into your customers from sales to service delivery. Here you can see some of the success that our customers are achieving with Krow. So high growth firms across a number of industries on a global basis are choosing Krow to manage their services operations. Whether it be IT consulting firms, management consulting, or professional services arms of software companies as an example, agencies, healthcare organizations, and more are using Krow today to manage their professional services business. Krow also offers an extended partner ecosystem of seamless integrations to both financial or accounting packages that you may use in your organization today, as well as productivity applications such as Sage, like Sage Intacct, or Sage Live, or Sage Financials, Zendesk, Xero, QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks On-Premise, NetSuite Financials, bidirectional integration with Jira, Zendesk, and Slack as well. All delivered seamless, real-time integrations with Krow PSA to help organizations manage their extended services operations. So a little bit about why Krow and how we're different in the marketplace today. So number one is we do offer a complete suite for professional services automation built 100% native on the number one CRM platform from Salesforce. You don't need to use all the components within our product, but when you use the components, you can manage your services business from end to end. It's easy to use and adopt. We focused on delivering a simple and intuitive user experience that hopefully you'll see and agree today in the demonstration. We built it also for the latest and greatest from Salesforce, the Salesforce Lightning user experience, although it does support the Salesforce Classic user experience as well. It's fast, so we have a rapid innovation cycle of new releases and functionality, and we can get started quickly and offer a low total cost of ownership for our customers comparatively against other vendors in the marketplace today. Our partner ecosystem, as I stated. So if your organization is using Sage or Xero or QuickBooks or NetSuite Financials, we can integrate seamlessly with those vendors. And we'll talk about some of the benefits of that today, and seamlessly passing all of that project financials and accounting data, whether it be time and expense, project, task data, revenue recognition, and so forth, over to your accounting product. And then finally, loved by customers. For those that are familiar with the Salesforce App Exchange or G2 Crowd, you can see some of the customer success stories and customer references that we have on those two sites. And we're very happy and proud that we're seeing the success that we are with our customers today. So why a professional services automation product? Why is this important to organization? What are the benefits that an organization can achieve with an integrated PSA or professional services automation product? So this slide is from SPI Research, and for those that are not aware of SPI Research, they are a research firm targeted or 100% focused on professional services industry, and this is from their 2017 PS Maturity Benchmark that compared a lot of things, but in this instance, they compared organizations that use a PSA or an integrated PSA product versus those that do not. And you can see the benefits of those that have and implement an integrated PSA application. So based on their study of over 500 or almost 500 organizations, comparing those two with and without a PSA application. You can see some of the metrics in front of you. So an increase of 17% overall revenue growth in their professional services organization for those that have an integrated PSA application. Increase in new logos or new revenue, 31%. Increase in revenue backlog, 11%. Increase in revenue attained per project by over 50K or 50,000, and these are US United States dollar numbers, by the way. Increase in billable percentage of or utilization of those resources or consultants, upwards of 4%. Utilization increase of 4% as well. So some significant benefits of implementing and having an integrated PSA application within your organization to manage your services business. So more information, to find out more information about Krow after today's demonstration, you can find more information at Krow Software, www.krowsoftware.com, including the resources tab with videos and data sheets and presentations. On the Salesforce App Exchange, you can just search for Krow. You'll find us there. You can also download a free trial of Krow PSA. And then finally, for those that might be attending the TSIA Technology Services World Conference in San Diego next month, we will be there as well, and we'd love to see you and talk with you if you're going to be down in San Diego next month at the TSIA Conference for Services Professionals. We will be there. So with that, let's spend the majority of our time now looking at a live demonstration of Krow Professional Services Automation. Okay, so you should see the screen in front of you now. I'm logged into Krow PSA, as you can see here, and those familiar with Salesforce, this is what's called the Lightning user experience, and that's where I'm going to be demonstrating Krow PSA today. So let's get started. So I've logged in. I'm a project manager. In this case, I'm going to be going in all areas of the application. Of course, it would be tailored to the role within the organization, whether you're an executive or a project manager or just a consultant that's primarily responsible for entering in their time and expense. But regardless, I'm into the system today. I'm starting off from the dashboard tab today. So I'm starting in from the dashboard tab, and I can immediately get insight into the state of my projects and the state of my professional services business. So I'm starting off from this dashboard called Project Summary. Excuse me. A fairly simple and overview dashboard. Here I can see upcoming new project starts by quarter, upcoming project go lives, milestone forecasts. I can get a quick view of my utilization by month, both billable and scheduled, or utilization by resource, utilization by role. Here I can see total time, both billable and non-billable, over these periods of months. I can see overall estimated scheduled hours. I can also see just the average hours overall that we're spending per project. Of course, you might want to modify this, create your own dashboards and create your own reports and slice and dice it, not only overall by project, but maybe by project type or region or department and so forth. And of course, you have the flexibility to do that by just clicking edit, and I can drag and drop, as you can see here, and modify this dashboard. I can add new components and reports to this dashboard, so it's completely configurable, and we would work with you during implementation in managing the insight and the analytics that you want to see throughout your business. So I'm just going to move on to another dashboard called Project Health. So this is giving me health-related metrics into my services business, such as where are we with respect to projects by status, right? What's not started, in progress, at risk, what's in pipeline. So here's an example of being native on the Salesforce platform. You can create your projects that are in pipeline prior to an opportunity even closing, where you can start to do project planning, right? Resource planning, revenue forecasting with pipeline projects as well. I can see overdue projects, timesheets pending approval, tasks by status, overdue tasks by project, overdue tasks by owner. So, Jane Smith obviously has the most overdue tasks in my organization right now. Maybe I want to drill down and see the root cause of that. Issues by project, risks by project, expenses pending approval. So immediate insight into the health of my services business. And then finally, project financials. So here's an example dashboard where I can immediately get insight into, well, where are we with respect to our project margins across the business? What's the revenue summary look like year over year by calendar year in this example? So for calendar year 2017, how much have we invoiced? How much have we expected from a revenue perspective? What have we recognized to date from revenue recognition? What was our baseline revenue? What's my estimated revenue at completion? What's my revenue recognition look like by month, by region in this example? And hence, what's my deferred revenue backlog look like? What's my revenue backlog look like? What are my top projects by billings? What's my time and expense billing forecast look like? What's my invoice total for this calendar year look like? So immediate insight, real-time insight into the services, into my services business at my fingertips. So now I'm just going to move on. We've logged in, we've looked at immediately where we are with respect to my services business, but now I'm going to start in showing Krow and how we can manage all of the day-to-day activity of running your services business. So where I'm going to navigate to now, I'm going to navigate to this area or tab called My Projects. So here when I'm logged in, I can immediately see my list of projects, active projects by default, and what customer I'm working with, start date, end date, percentage complete, project status, and you can see it's color coded here, which is configurable, so you can immediately see red means at risk, and so on, who owns this project, and what's my current burn rate for this project, which is again also configurable, so where I'm at. I can add new project right here as well, or search for projects, and I can filter my projects and so forth. But right now I'm looking at my active projects that I have a responsibility for and or access to, if you will. I could see these in a card mode. Maybe I'm more familiar or want to see it here, and I can still do some filtering here, and I can see a little bit more information like percentage complete and burn rate and who's on this project here as well. What I can also do is I can just switch right over to the Gantt view for all of my projects. So this is the overall Gantt view, if I will. I can still drill down into the details of this particular project right from here. But one of the things that I can do here as well, and why I navigated here, is I can maybe import a project. So during implementation or even during contract negotiations and proposal with your customer, if you or the customer uses Microsoft Project and maybe they have a template starting point that they might want to import into, I can import in from Microsoft Project here. So I'll just show you this as an example. And I'll select my Microsoft Project file, which is what I'm doing now, and just click import. And what the system's going to do is it's automatically going to import that Microsoft project file, including all the tasks, dependencies, predecessors, lag days, durations, tasks, names, and so on. And I can review this and I can modify this, as you can see here. And then I can go ahead and save this, and it's automatically going to create a project in Krow. And then you can start managing that project directly in Krow, which is what I'm going to show you now. So we've imported a project as an example from Microsoft Project, and I can export to Microsoft Project as well, by the way. I can export to project, to CSV, to PDF, including the Gantt chart from Krow as well. So I'm navigating back to my projects page, and I'm going to take a look at this client implementation project. So now I'm looking at a client implementation project within Krow. I can see all of the tasks, any milestones here. I can see by this little time icon that there's been time entered against these tasks, what the status is, start date, due date, duration, progress of this task, my burn of hours against this task, who's on this task, and so forth. What I can also do is I can open up a little embedded analytic, as we call it, and I can see the percentage complete of this project, the percentage of hours completion. I can get insight into what was estimated, what was scheduled, what's billable, what's non-billable, what's total logged hours, what's my burn rate on this project, what's my overall margin on this project. And this, of course, is completely configurable, even down to a project level where you might want to calculate margin on this project that's different from every other project. Common example is a standard margin might be on what we've budgeted for revenue versus what we've invoiced, but you might want to do a margin percentage on what we estimated for hours versus total billable hours logged. Whatever it may be, completely configurable. I can start managing this day-to-day or managing this activities of this project by clicking on this task. And here I'm clicking on a task, and we support full project management capability where I can schedule this task. I can schedule resources, multiple resources on this task, including dates and hours or percentage of effort within this task itself. I can do a lot of things here, such as manage my activity or collaboration. For those familiar with Salesforce, using Chatter, and I can collaborate internally or even with customers, upload files. I can even enter time on this task as I'm working this project. So we're going to see the My Timesheet in a little bit, but I don't need to navigate away to the My Timesheet to enter my time. I can add time right here, and it's going to show up on my timesheet later. So here I can manually add time here, right? I worked on this task for 2 hours. It'll default in today's date, and if this task was billable or not, and the role, and I can add any notes in here, and I can go ahead and save that time. What I also could have done is instead I can start my timer. So I can start my timer, and then I can go ahead and start working on this task. I might pause working on that task for break or for lunch, or maybe I want to work on another task, and I can just pause that. And I can even log out of the application. I can log back in, and I can start my timer back up again. And then when I'm done working on this particular task, I can stop that timer, and it will save that time entry for me. Time entry, expenses, including the timer, as you can see here, is all available from a mobile device as well, using standard Salesforce One mobile application. And even for those that are not Salesforce customers, same mobile application, whether it be Android, iOS, Windows, and so forth. All right. Furthermore, one of the new features that we are offering is anywhere you're in the application, and you might be in Salesforce, you might be in Krow, another application on the platform, and I just want to go ahead and quickly enter time. So we have what's called this global action here, and I just click enter time, and this is going to pop this up. Hopefully you can see that on the bottom right hand side here, and I can just choose the project, and this is configurable based on setup of which fields are showing here, but the project, and maybe I'm just entering in time for today for 1 hour, any notes, and I can go ahead and just save that. So I've quickly entered time wherever I am in the application very quickly, and again, it's going to show up on my timesheet later when I go to my formal timesheet where I'm submitting my time as an example for approval before it goes out for billing. I can also enter in some notes here as well and keep track of all my project notes as I work on this particular project. And I can make this private too as an individual, so I'm only seeing certain notes that are private to me as a project manager or consultant and so forth. Now, this being a project, you'd expect that I'm just going to navigate over to my project Gantt chart. So now I see my project Gantt chart, and I'm working on this particular project, as you can see here. I have all of my tasks and dependencies that I created. Because I have some dependencies here, I can just move this task out because it got delayed. And of course, it's going to automatically update all my dependent tasks and move them out because I have a dependent or predecessor relationship here. Of course, I can manage all that information, such as all of the predecessors, the type of predecessor it is, finish to start, start to start, lag days, and so forth. I can, of course, drag and drop here as well. So if I deleted this link here, right, I don't have a predecessor relationship anymore, but then later on I can just drag and drop and add that relationship back. I can add new tasks here very quickly, and I can inline edit, change any information on here. So this is managing the day-to-day Gantt chart activities related to this particular task. What I can even do is if I double click on this task, I can enter time right here, right from the Gantt, just like we saw from the previous task page as well. I can also create baseline or create baseline snapshots at any point in time, which is going to take a full snapshot of all project and task details when I create my baseline. I'm going to navigate back to my project now for a moment. So we've looked at managing project, quickly entering time, managing tasks, and so forth. What I'm also going to do now is I'm just going to navigate to the resource plan for this particular project. I'll look at it by day. So here I can see who's on this particular project, including a placeholder here, which is identified as blue silhouette. What you can also see here is Jane is on this project twice as both a project director and a consultant. So this is where we can have multiple roles with the same individual with different bill rates or cost rates on the same project as well. And here I can see all of their planned time in this project. The blue represents actual time based on time entry, and I can toggle that off. Actually, I'll move back to my week view here. I can also see that it's color-coded. So here I can see color coding. And if I want to add more time to these individuals, I can just drag and drop, right? And add more time here, percentage of effort based or daily, hours based or overall hours during the period of time that I dragged and dropped. Or maybe I just want to update the schedule overall for this person on this project, whether it be total hours, percentage of effort, start date to end date, daily hours, or distribute evenly across the entire period, and so on. So a lot of flexibility there. I can also just double click here and just inline edit their hours for any particular time as I'm planning them on this project. What I've also done in this example here is I've created what's called a resource request. Now, if you know for this placeholder that I just want to swap them out for another resource, I can just click the swap resource tab and I can swap them out for someone else. But if I don't know, or maybe I have a central resource planning department or individual in my organization, I've created a resource request. So I can click on this resource request and it's going to navigate to the resource request area here, and I don't have any proposed resources for this resource request, so I'm going to go ahead and search for more resources. So now I want to start searching for resources to fulfill this resource request for this particular project. So I'm looking for a senior project manager. I didn't put any hours in. Normally you'd put in what hours I'm looking for and the duration. The system's already tried to match that. I'm looking for a senior project manager, and here's a senior project manager, and I can immediately see any time that he has available. But what I can also do is just click on no filter, and it's going to open up those that might have or might be available to take on this particular role. And here I can see this person's red, so they're overscheduled already. Probably don't want to put this on them on the project. And I can see other individuals. I can filter by roles, by skills, by teams, by location, and apply that filter. What I can also do is I can just select some resources that I might want to review in more detail. So I'll pick maybe John and this person and this person, and then I can compare those resources. So now I'm comparing those resources, and I can compare them based on which team and region or practice location they're on, their skills and their skills proficiency. If I had skills against this request, it would show up here as well. What their target utilization is, what their available hours during this period of time is, and what their cost rate and bill rates are, if I want to take that into consideration. And these cost rates and bill rates can be hidden for all people or certain individuals if it's sensitive information that you want certain resource planners or consultants not to see. I can propose one or many of these people and take them through that resource planning process where they're going to replace that placeholder on the project, including any tasks that placeholder was assigned. I can also reach out to them by email, phone, or chatter right from here as well. So that's a little bit about resource planning and managing project activity. So what I'm going to do now, lots I want to show you today. So I'm just going to go back to my projects tab now, and instead of drilling back down into my client implementation project, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this customer, Acme, or account. And the reason I'm navigating here is to show you, if you are a Salesforce customer, I'm now in Salesforce CRM, so I'm looking at this account here. This is also part of Krow. For those that don't have Salesforce or don't use Salesforce CRM, you can use accounts or customers for Krow. But having said that, if you're using Salesforce, you know this account record here. And when I'm on the account, I can see everything specific to this customer, such as the contacts of this customer, my opportunities, whether it be closed won or opportunities I'm in negotiation for, my support cases if you're using cases in Salesforce, my proposals, but I can also see my projects. So now I'm getting a 360-degree visibility into my customers here, where I can see all of my projects for this particular customer, including where they are. Well, here's this one is in pipeline, this one's in progress, that was my client implementation, this one's at risk. And again, I can drill down into that client implementation project that I was looking at earlier. And based on my security, I can see what you want them to see. But having said that, in my demonstration today, I'm showing everything. So here I can see I'm drilling down into the details of this project. I can see where they are. All the details, whether it be assignments, tasks, timesheets, invoices, issues, risks, purchase orders, billings, baselines, proposals, contracts and contract lines, and more. And if I drill down a little bit further, I can get immediate insight into where are we with respect to revenue summary. How much have we invoiced for this project versus what we expected? How much have we recognized to date? What was our baseline? What are my total hours, billable hours for this project? And I can put in more reports that I might wish to see when I'm looking at this project by simple configuration. But if I drill down more, all of that detailed information that I talked about earlier, like project assignments and tasks and timesheets and invoices and risks and so on, I can drill down into the details of that right from here. If I want to start managing the day-to-day project activities, I can just click on this drop-down and click View in Krow, or go right to the Gantt chart or right to the resource plan. But if I go View in Krow, it's going to bring me back to where I started from the demonstration today, right? So I'm back to my client implementation, and then I can start managing this project, including tasks, scheduling, planning, Gantt chart, and so on with this project. So 360-degree visibility of your customers, from sales and opportunity pipeline all the way to managing those projects within Krow on one platform. So let's go back to my projects and carry on. So if my projects was top-down project-centric, my work is what we call kind of bottom-up task-centric. So if those customers that are using a more project and task-oriented approach to managing all of their projects, here when I access my work, I can see as an individual all the tasks that I'm working on across many projects. So I'm working on my website design project for this customer, the marketing plan project, the client implementation, and so on. So all of my tasks that I see here, some that might be mine, some that I'm a contributor to, or my team members' tasks. I can see all of my tasks, such as what are new, what I'm working on, what I consider a priority to work on next, my completed tasks, and I can drag and drop here just to complete those. I can add new sections. I can filter. So let me show me just those production tasks, and I'll just type in production, and it's automatically just filtering in real time here. As I remove that, then it's bringing it back. I can add new tasks here. I can also filter, right? So you know what? I want to see just my client implementation task. So I'll just say click display, and now it's going to narrow down and just show me that one task that I'm working on here. And again, I can drag and drop from there as well. Just like we saw from the My Project tab, if I click on this particular task, it opens up that right-hand panel for me, and I can start managing this task here. So I manage the schedule, enter time on this task as I'm working my task from the My Work page as well. And those Salesforce customers are familiar with Salesforce. We can synchronize Salesforce tasks with Krow project tasks. So a Krow task creates a Salesforce task, or a Salesforce task creates a Krow task. And when you manage the Krow task and complete the task, it will automatically complete it on the Salesforce side as well. So that's my work. So let's carry on now. I'm managing my project activity. I've shown managing my task activity from my work. Now I want to see my timesheet. Here's the one that I entered here, and I can add more timesheet information here against the projects that I'm working on. Here's my client implementation project again that I'm working on, and I can click the task that I'm working on here, any time, notes against my particular task, and then I can go ahead and save that, and then eventually there may be a submission process to formally submit that, and we have a workflow approval process where you can define what's that approval process look like when I submit that timesheet. Is it going to project manager for all the individual project time? Is everything just one combined timesheet going to my manager, my team member, and so forth? What I can also do here is I can even enter time for placeholders. And in this instance, when I say placeholders, it might be a partner that's not going to have direct access to Krow, but they may from the community, which I'm going to show near the end of the demonstration today. But if you wanted your partners to be involved in the project, so a partner meaning that they're working on behalf of your client implementations, if they have access, they can enter time for themselves, but you can also enter time on their behalf, attach them to projects and tasks, and of course bill that time to your customers. So that's a little bit about my timesheets. Switching gears now to Resource Planner. So now when we looked at the planner earlier, we were looking at a plan for a particular project, the client implementation project. But now what I'm looking at is the overall resource planner, so I can see all of my resource and all of the projects that they're working on. And here I can see an over-under color-coded by who's aligned to their target schedule or utilization, who's over-scheduled, who's under-scheduled. And of course, I can drill down on the details here. All right, so drill down on a minute here, and I can see, well, he's overscheduled because he's scheduled 40 hours on the client implementation project this week. He's also scheduled 40 hours on the Krow implementation project, so I might want to, modify that, or maybe I want to just move that out to the next week. right? So he's not going to be able to start it till the next week, and that's going to update my availability now, turning from red to green. If I want to continue to schedule more people on the project, I can just, again, right, drag and drop and schedule his time on the project here. Or I can click on edit like we saw earlier, and I can update his entire schedule for the entire project duration or a period of time on the project here as well. You'll see some color coding here as well, so we can color code things based on statuses, such as if they're planned on a project or soft booked and so forth. And of course, I'm looking at it at a week's basis here. I might want to switch over and look at it by month, so I can see 6 months at a time, right, and go back and look at the next year very easily, as you can see here as well. And I might want to start filtering. I can filter by a number of different criteria, such as filter by teams, queues, by resource, by project status, by customer, by roles and skills. Only show me unassigned resources, so I can start looking at resource requests or swapping out resources and so forth. So what we're looking at now, by the way, is what we call plan time. So I planned individuals on projects, okay, at a project level. One of the nice features that we have in Krow is that I can now look at what's called schedule time. So here, I'm not looking at plan time only. Now I can drill down and look at the individual tasks that they are assigned or scheduled to, as you can see here, and how that compares to plan time. And I can synchronize the both as well. You might want to use project plan time, task schedule time, or both. So the common example is at the beginning of a project, while I'm doing planning or pipeline, I don't know, obviously, who's going to be assigned certain tasks. So I'm doing a swag of what I believe the planned time for this individual on this project, or the number of hours over the period of time that this person is going to be on this project. But then when I start scheduling them, then I can get to more granular level detail and do scheduling right from the planner here as well, taking into consideration who's over or under scheduled. Okay, so that's schedule time. You might be more interested in availability. So I just want to see who's available. I can see who's over scheduled, so I know they're not available. I can see here this person's got 0 hours, they're under scheduled, so maybe I want to start to schedule them on projects and or tasks right from here as well. So this is called availability. And then finally, I want to see utilization. So for this week, I'm in this week right now. Looks like Jane is starting to enter her time, because I can see where she's entered time. I can switch this to percentage, so I can see her percentage utilization this week is 62%, based on 5% coming from this client implementation, 58% coming from the Krow implementation. And this metric, by the way, is based on what we call a target utilization that can be set all the way down to a individual level, and that's how it's going to calculate what her utilization is for this period of time. Of course, this will be filled in for your resources with all of their utilization as they start to enter time against various projects. So that is the resource planner. Another nice feature that we have, especially for agencies that we find that have very granular level daily tasks that they're working on, client activities like marketing collateral or something like that. I'm just going to actually search for this and pull it up, called the Task Planner. So the Task Planner here is where I can get kind of a bird's eye view of what tasks everyone's working on. And here I can see Amit actually has 3 tasks during this period of time that he's working on. I'm looking at it by week, and I can look at it by day as well, as you can see here. And then I can have unassigned tasks here. So here's this one. And I can just schedule anyone based on their availability. Okay, so I've scheduled this task, and I can see it's for one day from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. If I look at the hours view, so this gets very granular, and go back to the 18th of where it was scheduled. Here I can see it's scheduled from that 9 to 10 period of time right here as well. And I can continue to drag and drop that those tasks. I can even move it back to unassigned if I didn't want to assign it to the individual at this point in time. So here's where I can get a kind of more detailed look into who's working on what and schedule them on various tasks from the task planner as opposed to the resource planner. So that's the task planner. So I'm managing my projects, I'm managing my tasks, I've entered some time, I've planned resources on projects. Now what I can do is I can bill my customers and generate invoicing. So here's an example of if I navigate to the generate invoicing page here, and I'm just going to go back in time just to make sure I have some data. So I can generate invoices for any period of time. Just click search here, and I can see the system's automatically going to return any projects that have unbilled activity. I can, by the way, generate invoicing by account, not only by project. Okay, so I can produce an invoice for an account that might be made up of many projects. So here I can see, okay, I've got a fixed amount, some time and expense for these two projects, and I can choose all of them and create invoices on demand for them. If I go ahead, I can just look at an individual invoice. I think it's this one I wanted to look at. So here, if I'm looking at an individual invoice and I can see all the invoice line items, any expenses, fixed fee items, additional items, and so forth, payments against that. Now, right from here, what we can do is we can synchronize that to your accounting system, such as Xero or Sage or QuickBooks and so forth, and you can invoice from your accounting system. Of course, you can also invoice from our system. That's your choice. So here I can preview that invoice. I can email that invoice directly to the client. But if I preview that invoice, just in this simple example here, so this is a configurable invoice template, your logo and so forth, and it's configurable in the sense that I can choose, you know what, I don't only want the summary of the invoice, but starting on page 2, the client wants a summary by resource of all the tasks that were worked on for this invoice. I could have added notes here, so task notes, and I also want to see my expenses on this invoice as well, or I want expenses on a separate invoice. That's completely up to you as well. But this is an example of I'm managing those billable projects, and now I'm creating billing events and sending those invoices to the client. This is a sales invoice. What I'm not going to focus on today is we also support the vendor bill side. So you can pay back your vendors, so that would be a bill, and integrate that to your accounting system as well for what you owe back your vendors or independent consultants for their work on the projects, on your client projects as well. So that's a vendor invoice, as we call it, producing what's called a vendor bill. So carrying on, I've looked at generating an invoice, but now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of step back for a moment because I've tried to take you through the entire process of creating a project, managing the project, entering in time, managing resources, generating an invoice, sending that invoice out to the client. But what Krow also does is we can also, right back to before the project is created, we can create proposals and statement of works and create contracts. And of course, we can also not only bill customers, we can also manage revenue recognition, so project financials for those customers as well. So a few things that I'll look at now. So the first item that I'm going to look at is what we call proposals. So this is where you can create your proposals and your statement of works, if you will. And here I can see I have 8 proposal lines in total. And if I just click on view all for a moment here. So here I have proposal lines. Some of these are role based. So I'm saying I'm going to need a consultant. I'm going to need a project manager. This can be one or many. I can also have fixed items related to this particular project or proposal that I'm creating, such as maybe there's some delivery costs, or I need a camera. This came from one of our customers that they do in-person webcast delivery for customers, such as board meetings and so forth. So they have resource costs, but they also have fixed costs, such as their camera equipment that they will be shipping to the client site when they create those in-person webcasts. So all of that can be part of your overall proposal. And as I'm creating my proposal, here it's generating a real-time margin percentage, the revenue and the cost amount here. I can apply an overall discount or markup to this proposal, as you can see here. Now, I can build this manually, but because of this integrated system, I can do a number of things, such as I can import in from a project. So I might have a project template that has a standard project, and I can import that, and it's going to automatically create all of my proposal lines based on the resources and so forth that I need. What I can also do, and this is more specific to kind of fixed costs for this project, is I can add what are called products. So those familiar with Salesforce, you can create what are called products and price books. I can also import directly from Salesforce opportunities as well. But to give you an example of products, so you might have fixed fee products, and I can choose my price book here. And here I might have particular products, product families, and so forth. So here I've got a hardware component or a software component, and I can select those. I can also select here, okay, I'm going to need one of these and two of these, right? And here's the sales price. I can apply a discount here. I can apply a markup here. By default, you can configure these products to have a specific billing type for invoicing purposes, as well as a cost side of it. So from a margin perspective, I can also keep track of the cost, not only the revenue side, and I can just simply save that. And it's going to be added to my proposal. So now I have 10 lines, all right? So instead of 8, and if I view those details, I can see here's my hardware and software components, and of course they're added to my overall proposal and impacts my margin. So as I'm working my proposal, I can then generate my proposal, and we have out-of-the-box integration with Conga, which is part of our product as well. And if you already use or license Conga, you can just configure it with Krow, where we can generate proposals and statement of works documents in any format, multiple proposal templates based on type of project and so forth that you need based on all of this data. When I'm done that, what I can do is I can automatically create the project. It will automatically create a services contract as well, or I can create the contract separately from the project. But once I've done that, then it's going to create a service contract for me. And now if I look at the service contract related to this particular proposal, so here I can see this contract has a number of contract lines in it. I can also see what my contract amount was, so what my budgeted revenue was for this contract, what my budgeted cost was, and how much we billed to date, what's the current margin for this contract. So it's keeping up to date in real time as billing and revenue recognition happens. One of the things that you can see here that I like to show is that a contract can be made up of multiple projects. So this contract might be for a customer where you have multiple projects that are happening right now. More importantly, this goes to revenue recognition. So here, as you can see, I have 3 lines here representing the same project, Krow implementation, but I have 3 different types of billing. So as an example, when I started this project, it was an installment type billing of this project. Then there was a second change request or an amendment to this project, which was a fixed fee component. And then maybe they moved to time and expense, but it's all the same project. And then if I move to this column here, revenue template, here I can also have not only different ways of billing this project or these amendments or change requests in the project, I can have different revenue recognition methods related to those unique or specific elements within that project. And we'll look at revenue recognition next, but suffice to say is I could have started this project as an installment-based project, and the revenue template is billing event, which means that I am going to recognize revenue on this project as I bill the installments. But when the time and expense is taking effect, and as people are entering time and I'm invoicing that, I'm going to be recognizing that revenue based on percentage complete of the project, not based on how I bill. So you can get very granular as to how you manage revenue recognition, your contracts within a project or multiple projects using service contracts and proposals. Now, specific to contracts, and you can see these multiple lines that I see here, if I move over to revenue recognition for a moment. So now I'm just going to do RevRec for this month. So here it's pulling back these contract lines for all of these projects, and it's showing me, and I can filter, of course, by account, by region, by practice, by project, and so on. But here it's showing me all of my projects, my contract lines, my customer, the revenue template, the percentage complete on the project, total revenue achieved to date, how much we previously recognized, and based on the calculation, how much I have available to currently recognize. So in this sense here, or in this example here, total revenue received, percentage of complete is this revenue recognition method. I'm at 70%. I'm able to recognize this amount, and I can choose to recognize this amount. I can override it if I want to and say, you know what, even though I'm able to recognize that amount, I'm just going to recognize 2K of that right now for whatever reason, and it's going to create my revenue transactions for me. And once it does that, it should refresh my screen for me automatically. And now, based on the calculation, it says now I've previously recognized that 2K, and it's automatically calculated at this point in time. I still have this much to recognize, and next month might be more. It'll be this month plus any additional percentage complete. So that's how revenue recognition, proposals, contract lines all work together to manage overall projects and project financials. All right. So a couple of more things. We've talked about projects and tasks and timesheets and resource planning and generating billing events, looked at proposals and contracts and revenue recognition. So now that I'm managing all of this, and we've looked at some dashboards when we started the presentation today, but let's look at some more granular level reporting that we can achieve from Krow to manage our services business. So we'll start off from the top. We'll look at a fairly simplistic one called Project Summary. So this report here, what it's showing me, very simple report, but it's just listing my active projects, or you can choose any type of projects, pipeline projects as well. And I can see information, immediate insight into, here's my projects, for what customer or organization, region, practice, how much revenue I expected, how much we've invoiced, what's the estimated revenue at completion, what was our baseline cost, what's our current total cost, what's the estimated cost at completion, what was our baseline margin, current margin, estimated margin at completion, in both percentage and dollar amounts. So just an immediate quick report into where's all my projects, where are they, any red flags with respect to margin, right? And then I can drill down into that project right from here. So that's an example project summary report. Let's look at revenue summary. So here, another fairly high-level report where I'm looking by calendar year here. What's my revenue summary for 2017 overall? How much we invoiced, what we expected, what we recognized, what was our baseline. And I can look at the delta between these. And then again, I can see the details underneath, and I can drill down into those underlying transactions right from here as well. Let's move on to a little bit more sophistication now. So here is a report called Project Actuals Forecast. So the report looks simple, but the data behind the scenes and the forecasting engine in Krow behind the scenes is producing all of this information for us. So this Project Actual Forecast report, what it's showing me here is at any point in time, it's showing me what my actual revenue received versus what my forecast is, okay? And this engine that we have will continuously be rerun. You can run it daily, weekly, monthly. Normally it would be run monthly because, weekly, because what it's going to do is revenue that was forecasted will become actual, right? Because I've invoiced it now, or I've recognized it now, whatever your business rules are. So this will continuously change as revenue is received. But what it's doing is, in this example here is for every single project, for every single week here, it is calculating what my forecasted costs, hours, margin, revenue, build, and so forth are for all projects, and you can include active, pipeline, whatever it may be for forecasting purposes in my report. And where the complexity comes in, of course, you don't see this complexity, it's all behind the scenes, is that this forecasting engine, when it's forecasting revenue and cost, is taking into consideration all project billing types delivered with Krow. So it might be time and expense, fixed fee, installment, milestone, recurring revenue, and taking all of that into consideration when producing your actuals in your forecast. So as an example, for time and expense, how do we forecast revenue? Well, we can look at, for time and expense, the scheduled time for resources against those tasks and those projects, what that resources bill rate is for that particular role in that project, and we can forecast what the revenue is based on that scheduled time. Okay. Once that scheduled time becomes actual time entry, then we can move that from forecast to actual. For milestone-based projects or milestones within a project, we can forecast when those milestones are due, and hence once that milestone revenue is due, and we're forecasting that as well. That's all happening behind the scenes to produce what the overall project actual forecast revenue is. So this is project actual forecast revenue. And again, this is you looking at it overall, but you might want to slice and dice it by practice, by region, by organization, by project type. Show me pipeline, or only show me in progress projects and so forth. That's just simply just editing this report using the reporting and dashboard engine, and I can just drag and drop and update that report as I see fit based on your business requirements. Couple more quickly. So here's a supply and demand by role report. So now what I'm doing is I'm looking at, and as far into the future as you plan, is I can look at what are my available hours by role in this report, by calendar month. So here I can see for July upcoming, currently 200 project management hours, currently 123 lead developer hours. If I look back here, actually, there was only 60 hours available for project manager and so forth based on my supply and demand. And what is it looking at? It looks at what the demand is based on current or forecasted schedule time for those roles versus the supply, which is the available based on target availability and utilization that you can set all the way down to a resource level of availability of resources or placeholders, right? Doesn't have to be a named resource, can be a project manager placeholder that you want to include as part of supply and demand. One of the other items that we've done here, which is nice, is that you can configure, if I want to look at probability, and this came up from a discussion that I had with a prospect just a few weeks ago, which is show me how I can break it down by probability. So here's my supply and demand if everything that we have forecasted is true, including all pipeline projects move to close one. But that might not be realistic. So show me if 70% of my pipeline projects close, what's my supply and demand look like? Okay. If only 30% probability closes, what does my supply and demand look like? Obviously, if everything closes here, you've only got 2,000 hours of availability here. If I only close 30%, then I've got almost double of availability. So I've got lots of room for scheduling. And of course, these numbers would most likely be different in your organization where you're going to reach very low numbers and you might have to look at staffing externally for some of your projects. Final report. Available FTE by role. So here I'm looking at by month, by role, what's my available FTE, not necessarily in hours, but now in full-time equivalents or people, right? So as an example, in April, I basically have the equivalent of 7 consultants on the bench. I have 7 lead developers on the bench, but I have basically I'm negative a project director. So I've got more scheduled or forecasted time for a project director than I have availability going out into April. So I can immediately see available FTE, whether it be positive or negative, so I can look at some upcoming constraints that you may have within the organization. All right, finally, what I wanted to give you a quick glimpse at is we've looked at Krow here in what we call the core application for project managers, executive, and your employees of your organization. If I just switch gears for a moment, and actually I'm going to come back to my homepage, here is an example of a community. So this is a community where you can have your customers, your partners or consultants, they can have direct access to your projects as well, your client projects, depending on their role within the organization. So here I'm just showing you some examples. You can, as an example, if this was a customer, you can grant them access to certain dashboards or reports. Of course, they're only going to see their projects, right, or the projects that they are associated to. If I scroll down, I can see chatter or collaboration where they can reach out to you in real time. Hey, what's up with this project? How are we doing? What's the next steps? Instead of email, they have real-time access from the community. I can click on a Gantt chart here, so the customer has access to their project's Gantt chart, and I can see all their projects and drill down into those project level details. They can even have access to my projects and view it from there, and they can view all the tasks as we saw earlier. It's the same functionality that I showed you in the Krow. It's just being exposed through the community in a different way. Okay, and then for consultants, third-party consultants, they might have access to timesheets from the community so that they can enter time just like your internal employees did that I was showing you here, and they can enter their time for the work that they are doing on these client projects as well. Okay, so that's the community. So with that, I want to thank everyone for attending today. Hopefully you saw the power of Krow Professional Service Automation to manage your services business. For those attendees on the call today, you will get a copy of the presentation. This webinar is also being recorded. We'll make sure you send that recording as well. For more information to get in contact with Krow, please feel free to contact us at contact@krowsoftware.com. You can also contact us directly from our website at www.krowsoftware.com. Again, thanks everyone for attending today. Hope to hear from you soon.